We've got one more minute, guys. We'll let some more folks hop on here and then we'll get started. Thanks for being on time. All right, guys, so I've got 11 o'clock here, and we've still got some people trickling in, but we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This is my most favorite call ever, and I'm so glad that everybody can be on here, especially if you're within your first 90 days. I'm your host, Laura Davis, and I always like to start off first by telling my story. I've been with Symmetry Financial Group for 3.5 years. It'll be 4 years in March 2021. And before I got into Symmetry, I was in nursing for 14 years. So I had no idea what I was doing when I jumped into this. I just trusted my mentor, my upline, and I'm direct to Jordan and Jared Gillum. And so thankful to be so. When I first got into this business, like I said, I didn't know anything whatsoever about the insurance industry. I actually got into timeshare right before this for about 1.5 years from nursing. And that was my very first sales job ever. The environment that we were working in was very, it was hard. They led by fear. It was a very toxic environment for me to be in. And when our resort burnt down, we were all basically out of jobs. I really saw how that company had treated families and folks that worked there that had lost everything. Their homes, barely getting out with their lives, actually. And so Jordan had told me about this company, and I jumped in head first. Didn't know anything. I just trusted her, and Symmetry, in my journey here, it's actually taught me how to interact with different types of people and learn from other folks, that I necessarily wouldn't have gotten involved with or even met. In turn, that makes me a better leader. It helped me to conquer a lot of fear, a fear of going and knocking on somebody's door that I didn't know, talking and sitting with families about things that I had no idea about. It helped me lay out a clear path to where I wanted to be and how to get there, not only monetarily, but as a person and a coach and a good leader. So the system works, guys, if you work it, and that's the key. The system will work if you guys work it. So some of the pitfalls that folks make when they're first starting out is everything starts on the phone. So a lot of the pitfalls start on the phone, and they don't stick to the script. The system says to do at least 250 dials, and to gauge that within an hour, you're going to want to do at least 30, 35 dials per hour, and 250 is the starting mark. So after that, that's when you start booking more appointments, and that's where you get all of the appointments on the board that you need. One huge mistake that folks make is not sticking to the script again. That's very, very crucial, or not dialing enough until they get the amount of appointments that they need for the week. When you first start out anything, especially on the phone, it's a little bit uncomfortable, but that's where growth starts, guys, is the uncomfortable part. So that's normal. And nothing grows in your comfort zone. So if you're uncomfortable, then you're probably on the right track, and you should do more of that. So the more that you do anything is going to make it easier and less uncomfortable for you. So we dial until. Now, until means that we get 8 to 10 appointments for part-time and 20 to 25 appointments for full-time. Now, as if you guys were on the call yesterday with Grant, he actually booked 45 appointments in the week and sat with 31, and he had an incredible week. I believe he had over 20,000 in APV, so that was pretty amazing. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what you're shooting for. Now that'll yield you 4 to 6 sits for part-time and 12 to 15 sits for full-time. And a sit means that you're actually talking to someone and they show up. So the amount of appointments that you have on the board might not be the amount of people that you're actually gonna sit with and talk with. You have to leave some leeway for people not showing up, people telling you no, these things happen. So you want to make sure that you have enough appointments on the board for it to make sense for you to have a good week. Some key tips for the phone. We triple dial one number. That means every single time that you pick up the phone, you're going to keep track of that with a tick mark. Every time somebody answers, you're going to keep track of that with a tick mark. And every time somebody books with you, you're going to keep track of that with a tick mark. So there's 3 different things that you need to be gauging or keeping track of. That would be the number of dials, the times that you actually called that number, the number of people that actually pick up the phone, and then the number of appointments that you actually book. You'll also want to keep track of the number of appointments that you actually sit with. Now, whatever we see physically, numbers, is what we can gauge and what we can measure. So if you're not measuring those numbers and you're not leaving those tick marks, then you're not going to be able to see if you need work in a different department as far as booking appointments or sitting with people, things like that. So low and slow is your tone. That's key on the phone. I like to describe it as a midnight DJ voice. You want to have your low and slow tone, because if you call somebody on the phone and you're excited and you're happy and congratulations, you've reached the mortgage protection lady, people are probably going to hang up on you. So usually telemarketers will call you a couple times and then hang up. They'll be really excited when you pick up the phone because they probably don't have a lot of people that actually answer for them. But you don't want to be that person, because we're not telemarketers. We're actually trying to get a hold of these people for something very, very important. When do we dial? That's a big question that a lot of new folks ask. Friday nights and Saturday mornings are the best times to get a hold of folks. However, since we are working remotely and virtually now, the good time to dial is anytime. On one of the national calls last week, there was a gentleman talking about if you just set aside a couple of hours each time throughout the day, like a couple hours in the morning to dial, a couple hours in the afternoon to dial, and a couple hours in the evening to dial, you're probably going to catch those people that either work third shift, they're working until 5, when they get off. Some folks are up early in the morning. So anytime now is a good time to dial, but we do recommend, the system says, Friday evenings and Saturday mornings are the best time to get a hold of folks. And we always book within 24 hours for the highest maximum retention rate. That's a key right there. So if you guys are taking notes, you want to book your appointments no later than 24 hours in advance. I like to book same day because it's fresh on their mind and folks are more likely to actually show up for the appointment because it is fresh on their mind. Now, some tips that I wanted to give you guys for being more consistent. Ask yourself when you first start, do you have a lead budget set aside? What does that look like? Well, we do recommend, the system recommends $250, my apologies, for your leads. That's going to yield you $1,000 to $1,500 net if done consistently over 6 weeks. And that's the key, guys, is to do this consistently over a 6-week period. So you're going to want to be buying leads each and every week because those are your resources. And if you don't have enough resources, then there's no way that you're going to have enough appointments on the board for it to make sense for you and to have a good week. We want to resolve all of our leads with either a yes or a no only. Nothing else, just a yes or a no. So if folks are telling you on the phone that they already have coverage, that's not going to be a resolved lead. If they tell you, I've already got coverage, and then hang up, that's still not a resolved lead. I always call those folks right back directly. And I apologize for losing a connection with them. And then I tell them, I don't want you to misunderstand why I was calling. I'm the local advocate for the area, or I'm the advocate for the area, taking care of you guys. So they've set me up with your family and about 19 others in the area. So it's taken me about 10 to 15 minutes to work up those options. Usually when you tell them, my apologies, we got disconnected, and I don't want you to misunderstand why I was calling, they're more likely to listen to you so you can explain your role and purpose and why you're actually calling. Remember, nothing but a yes or a no means that lead is resolved. We're going to put it to the back of our leads and call them back if they don't answer, or if you continually get hung up on, or they're giving you any answer besides a yes or a no. If you call the same number over 20 times, more than likely they've been called before, especially on older leads, and you're just going to want to be consistent and keep on calling them. Now, we are able to go out into the field and door knock. Some folks will let you in, some folks require a mask. Just use your best judgment on that. It's always harder to say no to somebody who's standing at your door as opposed to somebody on the phone or over the internet. But because of the environment right now, a lot of folks are hesitant on letting you into their home, or they might require a mask. So if you are going back out into the field, then always carry a mask with you just in case, and be ready, for that client, so that you can make them feel comfortable and have their best interests in mind when you walk into that home. Now, if you are doing door knocks, there are sticky notes that you can purchase on the sfglife.com website, which are really awesome because it strikes a little bit of curiosity. When somebody sees that sticky note on their door, if they weren't there when you were, then more than likely they're going to call you back. You put your number on there and then final delivery. And more than likely, they're going to be curious enough to call you back just to see what it's about. Let's see. Remember, guys, I want you to remember and write this down. The key to consistency is massive action and constant correction. That massive action part is your dials. That massive action part is the running appointments. All of those things are money-making activities that you can do each and every day. If somebody stands you up and doesn't show up for an appointment, get back on the phone if you don't have enough appointments on the board. That gives you an opportunity to book more. And it also gives you about an hour, to do those dials. So use your time effectively and wisely. And always call your upline if you don't know how to handle objections, or you're having trouble on the phone, or even in the home. A lot of families and clients that we sit with are appreciative when you're honest with them and say, hey guys, I feel really good about where we're going with this, but some of these programs are a little new to me. So I'm going to reach out to my product manager real quick. Do you guys mind? And then usually they're very appreciative and, oh yes, please call somebody. If you don't know the answer, then I'll be happy to get in contact with somebody that does. So just be forthcoming with that. It's a lot easier for your upline to perform surgery while you're in the home or over the Zoom with a client, instead of trying to resurrect the dead after the appointment's already done, or perform an autopsy after that client has already finished the whole appointment. So call them while you're during the appointment, call them before so that they can load your lips a little bit and give you a little bit of verbiage to go into the home with if you need that. But always be constantly correcting with your upline. Another key is to never, ever, ever book appointments during conference call times and calls like these. So you guys want to mark that out first on your planner or whatever you're keeping your schedule on. These conference calls are very, very important. Now we have a conference call every Monday at 10:30. That's going to be the Cook Master Agency call. And then we have the national sales call at 12 o'clock. And all of these Zoom links are going to be posted on the GroupMe for everybody to log in there. We also have this new agent call, of course, and kudos to everybody on here that showed up. That's within their first 90 days. You guys are doing the first steps. So congratulations for just showing up. 90% of this business is just showing up. So I wanted to give you guys some kudos for that. Also, we have the National Builders Call on Wednesdays starting at 1 o'clock. I always block off 1 to 3 just in case everybody is running behind, or I might have a little bit of downtime after the call so I can grab some lunch if I'm hungry at that time. We also have Evolution to Your Business call with corporate on Thursdays, and that starts at 11 o'clock. And so these are very, very important calls to be on, guys. Block those out of your schedule. The very first thing that you block out should be these conference calls. I can't reiterate that enough, because that's where we learn. That's where we grow. That's where we hear from the top producers within Symmetry all over the country. Always remember that your first 9 months is going to be the hardest, guys, because you're only getting your 75% commission up front within your first 9 months. On months 10, 11, and 12, that's when you'll start to see those back-end residuals trickling in. So just remember, keep your head down, keep on going, and don't give up on yourself within the first 9 months. That's very, very important. When it gets hard, go talk to your upline, because they're, I guarantee, in the trenches with you, and they've been there. We've been there. We've been exactly where you guys are, probably 100 times. So more than likely, we'll be able to help you out of that hard spot that you've gotten yourself into. During your, let's see, some good audios. Let me guys throw out some good audios right here for you to listen to. There was an Ashley Tarr in the Home, but now it's called Agent Training in the Home on the sfglife.com website. That is an awesome, awesome skeleton of the sequence to use when you guys go into the home for the first time. I listened to that audio. Golly, I've heard it probably thousands of times. When we were out in the field physically, I would make my car a rolling university. Now that we're working from home a lot of the time, in my downtime, I'll listen to these audios. You know, if somebody stands me up and I've got enough appointments on the board, I'm going to listen to an audio just to keep my mind right, because a lot of this business is mindset. So you're going to want to listen to those just to keep your mind right. A very good one for keeping your mind straight and in the right direction is Jordan Shank, Protecting Your Mindset in the Field. That's a great one to listen to. And then if you're brand new, haven't gotten on the phone yet, I recommend all of the on the phone training. You can do some in the home, but mostly on the phone is where you need to start, because until you're good on the phone, you can't be great in the home. So that's the first step. You always need to learn your scripts, run down through those objection sheets. That way you can overcome that objection quickly without any pauses in your script. Let's see. Before I open the floor for questions, I did want to talk a little bit about recruiting and the importance of starting early. That was something that me and my husband did not do when we first started. I am in business with my husband, and he is our full-time recruiter now because he's simply better at it than I am. And that's something that he loves to do. And so I'll produce, and then he's the recruiter. A lot of folks don't have that luxury, so you have to be very diligent about your schedule when talking about recruiting. When I first started, I was the only one. I was out there producing and I was also recruiting. So the way that I would set up my schedule is I would run appointments Mondays and Tuesdays. I would have a little bit of a cleanup day on Wednesday, and then I would be doing interviews on Thursdays and Fridays. So that's just my schedule. You guys can fit that into your life, however that works for you. But that just gives you a good idea. An easy way to start recruiting is just write a list of names, folks that are in your phone contacts, folks that are on Facebook. I know we've all got 100 numbers in our cell phones. Just pick out some folks that you would like to be in business with. Somebody that you know is going to give you an honest opinion. Send them the videos and ask them what they think. You've entered into a new career and a new journey. I really trust your judgment, and I know that you're going to tell me the truth. So will you watch these videos and let me know what you think? And everybody's got an opinion, so they're definitely going to let you know what they think, whether it's for them or not. Regardless, it's not our job to decipher whether somebody is good for Symmetry or Symmetry is going to be a good fit for them. It's our job just to show them the opportunity and the right. So just keep that in mind, guys. When you're building, the best time to start is now. It was actually yesterday the best time to start. But if you haven't written that list of folks, go ahead and do that today. Go ahead and start going through your contacts. Just, start a conversation up with folks. And that's the best way to get started, because guys, Symmetry is an awesome, awesome vehicle to get you everything that you need, regardless if it's you need work on yourself, if you need money in your bank account, if you want to become a good leader, if you want to be a mentor, a coach, all of these things are things that Symmetry is a platform for. But you have to take initiative and you have to take the first steps, because there are some things in this business that our mentors can't help us with. And you have to do that internal growth yourself in order to get everything that Symmetry is offering for you here. And the only way to take advantage of everything that Symmetry is offering is to build with Symmetry when you get started. You can go on the producer's path and only produce if you don't want to build a team. Of course, there's the agency owner path, which a lot of us are doing, because then you get everything that Symmetry offers here. And then there's the wholesale path, which that goes into a little bit more detail on the SFG website if you guys want to check that out. If you have any questions, definitely consult with your upline to see what path is the right path for you. Let's see. Also, if you guys hear STP, I know Chris talks about it a lot on his calls, on the national calls. Everybody's talking about STPs. That's show the plan. And like I said before, just jot down a list of folks that you would want to be in business with. That's a good place to start. As you grow in the business, you might want to drop some ads for cold market recruiting, but definitely consult with your upline on how to start doing that. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and open up the line for questions if anybody's got any questions here. Let me go ahead and unmute everybody.
Trying to think. What would you say, Laura?
All right, you guys can go ahead and unmute.
Sorry.
Hey, Jordan.
Hey, can you hear me?
That's okay. I can. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Hey, I was just wanting to ask just a quick question. I know you gave us some SoundCloud recordings to refer to, and I'm so glad you did, because I really think I should check myself into the Jordan Shank one you just mentioned. Probably be a good way to spend after this call. But I definitely just wanted to ask you, what was probably the most impactful book you've read as far as developing yourself and preparing yourself for this business?
Oh goodness, that's hard because there's so many great books out there. I love the Frank Bedgar, How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. That was one of the that was actually the second book that I read in this business, and it really kind of put everything into perspective for me, especially starting out, because everything was so new and I was going through a lot of growing pains, and changes, because I didn't know anything about this. And I was just relying on the system and the folks that I heard from Cemetery that were successful, and I just thought to myself, well, if they can do it, I most definitely can do it. So I love that book. Go for No is a great one. Of course, that's one of the very first books. That is the very first book that I started off on, but that's a good book that a lot of new agents can start off on. I love John Maxwell, so everything John Maxwell. He's probably my favorite author. He just breaks it down into real life terms, and it speaks to me. So, like Danny Young says, as long as you guys are reading, just pick something that speaks to you. It doesn't matter what it is. We do have a book of the month within the Cook group that we do suggest folks grab that book and start reading it along with the group. That way we're all together. We're synchronized. We're reading the same book. We're on the same page. We're talking about it on the Cook calls. The book that we're reading next month is The Slight Edge, which I absolutely love that book. If you haven't gotten it, it's something that you're going to want to read over and over and over again. So that's another great book. Anybody else?
Yeah, I ordered that book yesterday on Amazon. It's going to take a couple weeks because I'm not sure it's still in print.
Hi, Laura.
Yeah, well, I think Amazon's a little behind. Hi, Greg. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Yourself? Hopefully
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Your video is a little glitchy. I don't know if it's your end or mine, but I will try to ask my question anyway. You mentioned about the 250 dials. Is that per day or per week? And
that is per week.
okay.
Yeah, you'll want to do 250 dials per week. And that's just the starting point. Like I said, if you were on the national call last week, there was a gentleman on there, I can't remember who was speaking, but he was talking about breaking it down into days. So if you have an extra hour set aside when somebody doesn't show up for an appointment, then that's time that you can dial in between there. And you just want to break it up throughout the day, like an hour in the morning, hour in the afternoon, hour in the evening. So if you do 3 hours a day, that's a good way to kind of break it up to where you're not sitting down for 3 hours and just dialing. You can break it up throughout the whole week. You can do a 3 hours of dial session on Saturday. That's the way that I like to do it, because I like to book a lot of my appointments on Saturday for Monday. And then if somebody stands me up, I'll just get back on the phone on Monday and book more appointments for the week, for the rest of the week. But remember, you don't want to book appointments more than 24 hours in advance, because people just won't show up, or, you won't have the maximum retention.
Okay, so there are 250 new.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just wanted to go a little deeper. So there are 250 new leads that you are taking, or they're ones that have rolled over from the previous week, or?
We try to resolve all of our leads that we purchase within the week, because that's how you're going to get your biggest return on investment. you know, if sometime I've been guilty of having leads that roll over from last week that I just haven't been able to get a hold of folks. They just haven't answered. So I will go through those the very next week and resolve them. But you definitely want to resolve them, and that's the key. You want to get either a yes or a no from that client and then move on from there. But if you're hanging on to these leads for weeks and weeks and weeks, then, you know, the leads are exclusive to you for 4 weeks. But after that, they do go back into the system. So folks are going to start calling these folks again. You know, they might sit with somebody, they might get coverage. You know, you lose your chances of getting a good appointment if you hang on to those leads for weeks and weeks at a time.
Okay. Is there a certain kind of lead that you always buy? Because they're all priced differently, aren't they?
I do have. Yes. Yeah, that's a good question too. That's a question we get a lot from new agents. We always start new agents off on bonus leads simply because that's going to be your highest return on investment. And you are learning. So there's a learning curve there. You're learning on the phone, you're learning your objections, you're learning how to run appointments, things like that. So the bonus leads are going to give you the most return on investment. I still buy bonus leads. But I do have also a GMR, which is a radius around me, the closest 5 counties to me. And I am committed to A leads each and every week. So on top of the A leads, I'll also purchase bonus leads just to get the amount of appointments that I need on the board.
Sorry, could you explain bonus leads to me, please?
Yes. The bonus leads, if you'll look into your opt system, whenever you guys get access to that, the bonus leads are 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A, 50 cent, and 25 cent leads. And you can buy as many of those as you need. There are metrics to it. If you guys want to write these metrics down, I'll be happy to give them to you. 5A leads are $6.99 a piece, and you want to get 20 of them to book 8 to 10 appointments. 4As are $5.99, and you'll want to get 40 of them to book 8 to 10 appointments. 3As are $4.99. You'll want to get 60 of them to book 8 to 10 appointments. 2As are $3.99. You'll want to get 80 to book 8 to 10 appointments. And these are part-time numbers, guys. So take that, and if you're doing full-time, you're going to want to book at least 12 to 15 appointments. So you'll want to get more resources. The 2As are $3.99. You'll get 80. 1As are $1.99. You'll get 100. 50 cent are, of course, 50 cents, and you'll get 120. And the 25 cents are 25 cents, and you'll get 120 of those as well. The only difference between the leads, of course, is cost, but also the length of time that they've been into the system. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're no longer a good lead if they've been in the system and they become a 25 cent lead. It just means that that family hasn't been helped yet. I've called 50 cent leads to where people are like, oh my gosh, why did it take you so long to get back in touch with me? Nobody's gotten in touch with me. I've also had 50 cent leads to where the wife answers the phone and says, unfortunately, my husband passed away a couple of months ago. I wish you guys had gotten in contact with me then. So that's another reason why it's so important to resolve all your leads when you get them, because we have an important job to do. You know, we're taking care of families. What we do out there for these families is the difference between sometimes somebody being homeless and losing their family home, or being okay for that grieving period after they lose their spouse. You know, giving them money to get through that grieving period of time to where they don't have to worry about bills hitting them in the face while they're mourning their spouse's death. especially if it's unexpected. So what we do here is huge for families. It could be the difference of literally life or death, so that's why you want to resolve your leads when you get them. Very, very important.
How do you track your calls? You mentioned about doing the tick system, and do you have a program for that, or do you just have a sheet that you write everything down, or what's the best way you find to do that?
I just write it down right in my planner. We do have SFG planners on the website. That's what I use. And it has a space for dials at the very bottom. I'll give you an idea of what it looks like. I'll just show you mine right here. So this is my schedule for this week so far. I don't know if you guys can see that okay, but at the very bottom, can you see that right there? And then every time that I picked up the phone, I put a tick mark. So those are how many physical dials that I've done so far. And then on the other side, on this side right here is where I keep track of the people that answered right here. And then these are my appointments right here.
Okay. What do you do?
Oh, Sharon says the agent
Sorry.
Oh, my apologies. Go right ahead, Greg.
No, after you.
Well, I just got a message here from Sharon about the agent activity report. That's also a good tool to use. Your upline should be telling you about that. She's correct. It is found on the sfglife.com website. And it's just your activity report that you do each and every day. Because if you step away from your business for a few days, then you're gonna lose that momentum. You're gonna lose that flywheel effect, that we've been talking about from the book of the month that we've been reading. So you want to you can gauge it on the agent activity report as well. You could keep track of it that way.
Okay, sounds good. What do you do with people not answering the phone, which I'm sure happens a lot? What are your different tactics there?
I just keep calling, calling, because the more times that your number shows up into their phone, the more likely they're going to be to call you back. They'll see your number in their phone quite a bit, and it'll strike your curiosity. Oh, and they could block you. They could very well block you. But if you call from a different number, like a Google Voice number, or the app that I like to use is called Text Now. It's just a free app where it gives you a free phone number. You can use that, but just kind of switch up the numbers. That's a good key.
Okay. Do you ever leave a voicemail?
Not if I haven't gotten a hold of them the first time. I never leave a voicemail because I want to talk to somebody on the phone. You're less likely to book an appointment if you leave a message on their phone.
Okay. Do you ever text anyone that you haven't been able to speak to on the phone yet?
No, not until I speak with them. I'm not giving them any of my information, texting or sending any leads or anything until I've spoke with them. Now, as I'm booking the appointment, I'm sending them the Zoom link right then. That was a key that Jordan helped me with. That's really been helping my show rate lately, is the texting the Zoom link while you're still on the phone with them. and also sending them your license number via text. Some folks want to see the lead, so I'll take a picture of the lead and send it to them. But I don't do any of this stuff until I've already booked the appointment. And it's sort of like them envisioning the appointment actually happening while you're doing that. See, when we were out in the field to lock down the appointment, we would always ask if the number in their address is on their house or their mailbox, because that would get them thinking that, hey, this lady's actually going to come to my house and this is going to happen. So you want to do that the same way on the Zoom by sending them a link, and then making sure that they get that link in their email while they're on the phone with you. And it kind of reiterates that this is going to be a legit appointment. And I also tell folks that I never double book. So if for some reason you don't show up, you might be taking away time from another family that I could possibly help. It's okay to tell them that, because you want them to show up. You want to make sure that that's a good appointment on the board.
So do you not text anyone that you haven't spoken to already on the phone because of security, privacy issues from your end, or you just think that they're less likely to then speak to you if you text them in some way? Or, I mean, I just look at it from my personal point of view. I'm sure we all get calls from random numbers every single day, and I very rarely, if ever, answer the call because I don't know who it is. It's going to be rubbish. If I receive a text, at least I will read it. Guaranteed every time, even if it is spam related, you know.
Yeah, and I would definitely consult with your upline about this in your personal situation, but the system doesn't tell us to leave text messages or anything like that until you have a confirmation that they've given you permission to book an appointment with them, basically. So, you're guiding them in a direction on the phone to book an appointment with them with the verbiage in the script. So if you stick to the script, that's going to lead the client in a direction to book an appointment with you. If they don't ever answer, then just keep on calling. If they're in your area, just go to their door, knock on their door and say, hey guys, unfortunately, we haven't been able to get a hold of you. So the company sent me out to take care of this for you.
No, that's good. I like that. I'm just trying to, get all the different and best ways to get the highest, the highest number of closes and speaking to the most number of people. And I know personally, I always, at least look at text, and I wouldn't phrase it in a spam kind of way, but I didn't know if that was something we were banned from doing or,
Yeah, you can do it however you want, Greg. The system tells us not to because people are less likely to book an appointment or even talk with you after they get a text from you. When we were solely out in the field before we were able to do virtual meetings and things, we would never, ever even give folks any information about us. We wouldn't give them our phone number. We wouldn't give them, anything about us until we met face to face, because they're more likely to cancel on you if they have your information. They can send you a text. Oh, hey, Greg, unfortunately, we're not going to be there today. We have something else to do. Or, that just, it takes away more objections if you don't give them that information.
Okay. Sounds
and the
good.
easiest way to overcome an objection is just
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, the easiest way to overcome an objection is not to get one.
I like that.
Hey, Laura.
Yeah. Yes. Hi,
Hi.
Kathy. How you doing?
Good. It's great to finally get to see you, and I've heard so much about you. I know you're a superstar, so I'm so impressed everything I hear about you.
Thank you.
So forgive me, I did miss the first 10 minutes, but I did get an appointment with that call, so that's my good excuse for being late. But I'm just kind of curious.
Good.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Forgive me if you've already said this, but you're so successful. But I'm kind of curious, when you started out, how long did it really take you to put all the pieces together and feel like you were being successful and all and through that whole learning curve?
Oh my gosh. I struggled for quite a while. Jordan can tell you, I was on the phone with her constantly, all the time. I probably called her 20 times in my first home. Legit 20 times with one family, because I had no idea what I was doing. And the only thing that I knew to do was call her, because she knew more than I did. You know, she'd been in the business 4 months before me. And as you know, you've been here for a minute now. You learn a lot. You learn a lot in the first 90 days. I mean, you'll probably learn more about this business in the first 90 days than you've ever learned in your life about anything.
Right.
You know, and you'll absorb more than you really understand until you look back in the rearview mirror and you look back there and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I've come this far, that I know this much. But I went through a huge learning curve with my anxiety. I deal with anxiety issues and nervous and all this stuff. And so going to folks' homes that I didn't know was crazy to me.
Yeah.
You know, it was so out of my comfort zone that it was scary. I mean, I would hyperventilate almost sometimes before I went into somebody's home. But, you know, one thing that calmed me down was I would first just take a second and breathe. And I would say a prayer before I went in there and just do it. I would do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get out of my car, go do it. You know, and the more that I did it, the easier it became. And just do it over and over and over and over again. And the more that you do it, the more comfortable it becomes to you. You know, it's still not really comfortable for me, but it's more comfortable than it was in the very beginning. So I would say it took me a good 6 months. It took me a good 6 months to get consistent, to really work on my schedule. That's a big deal. You know, if you don't block out your dial times, then more than likely you're not going to have a dial time, because other things come up, you know, laundry. I have an 11-year-old daughter, you know, and a husband, and we live on a small farm. So we've got animals, you know, to take care of and stuff. And so all of these things going on around me could take me away from what I need to be doing, or the money-making activity that I need to be doing to be successful or have a successful week. So in order for those things not to come into play, I have to be very diligent and disciplined about my schedule and block out and protect my dial time. So if you're not doing that, then more than likely you're not going to have a dial time. More than likely a bad day is going to turn into a bad week, which turns into a bad month, and so on and so forth. So it did take me a good 6 weeks to get consistent and to really start situating my schedule to my life, you know, and finding that work-life balance. And, you know, you kind of have to get uncomfortable and you have to get out of whack to get in whack or in line, you know. So if you're uncomfortable and you're trying to work out your schedule and stuff, just know that you have to get a little bit uncomfortable and you have to get a little bit out of whack to be able to fit into alignment.
Yeah, that's excellent feedback. I was curious because I expected more from myself. My expectations are super high and I'm super organized. So you're right. It's been 6 weeks and I finally just got the right schedule for myself and just testing all the different schedules out and finally clicked. But I thought my learning curve would have been faster, so I know I'm harder on myself. So Jordan and Jared always help me get through that, the poor things. But I can see the progression, and now everything's clicked with the schedule. Everything is clicked with my intros, and all of a sudden this week is clicked with setting appointments. The last hill I think to climb is probably the closing piece, but yeah, I thought I'd be a lot quicker on that. But I was just curious because you're so successful. I just needed to hear that, so I know I'm not a crazy person, and I'm really moving along at a good pace. So thank you.
Well, Kathy, I'm always seeing you on these calls. You're always plugged in. You're doing the right things, and consistency is key. So if you do the right things long enough, things are going to start fitting into place. But don't compare yourself to anyone, because your journey here is a lot different from anybody else's. That was something that I had to get over in the beginning, because I also felt like I wasn't where I was supposed to be in the amount of time that I was here. I still sometimes feel like I should be further along than I am in my journey now, but I have to put it back into perspective and not compare myself with other people, because I don't know legit what they're going through. Success looks different. People on the outside, they're only going to see the successful part. They're only going to see the results. They don't see what goes into getting the results. So I like to think of it as like an iceberg. You only see like this portion of the iceberg on top of the water, but then it could be huge, down here at the bottom. And all of that down there at the bottom is all the no's that you're getting. It's all of the blood, sweat, tears, okay, in the trenches that you're going through. That is what success compiled looks like. But folks on the outside are only seeing the result part. So the key is consistency. So just keep doing what you're doing long enough, and you will see the results. You'll see the results, but don't compare yourself, because comparing yourself to other folks takes away your joy, and it causes needless frustration in your business and in your life.
Excellent.
Makes you feel bad.
Yeah, excellent feedback. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Well, thank you so much for the question. Is there anybody else that has any questions? I see a lot of new faces on here, so it's okay to speak up. More than likely, your question is something that somebody else is wanting to ask as well. So now is a great time to ask any questions that you want.
Hey, this is Joey Miller.
All
Can you hear
right,
me?
guys. Oh, hey, Joey. How are you doing?
Pretty good. You?
I'm doing well.
So
What's your question?
I was kind of curious, like me starting out. I was looking at this as just a part-time venture. I have a full-time job,
Mhm.
and I am on a pretty tight budget most of the time anyway. So this was going to hopefully help with some extra income. Starting out though,
Okay.
somebody that's on a tight budget already, I mean, let's say they don't have the budget for, say, $250 a week in leads.
Mhm.
So, eventually I would like to get to that point, hopefully get this up and running. But, let's say you only got $50 to start out a week. Where would you
Mhm.
invest that money for the biggest return on your investment?
Joey, who is your upline?
Chris Cook.
He's the best. I would definitely reach out to him and ask and ask him what he would suggest, because this thing, he's financially invested in you, and he knows your situation more than anyone else in the business. So I would definitely reach out to him about the lead cost and things like that. You can gauge it. There are metrics to everything in this business. So if you spend $100, you're going to get about 1,000 in return. And those are conservative numbers, because you can make a lot more if you invest that $100. But that's kind of where we start, and the metric to give you an idea. So for every $100 that you spend, you'll be making 1,000. So if you spend $50, you might make 500.
Okay, I was looking at the sheet that kind of gives you an idea of price range and how many you're supposed to buy of each of those to kind of get a result. But I guess my question is kind of more along the lines, would you mix and match those rather than just sticking with one? Do you want to compile maybe
Oh, yeah.
a couple out of one section and more out of another section, divide it up into maybe 3 or 4 different sections and try to maybe maximize your possibility of getting an appointment?
Sure. Yeah, you can mix them up however you want. I mix them up all the time, just whatever is available in bonus leads. I'll go in there and get 5 A's, 4 A's. If I have $25, $50 to spend or whatever, then, I'll go in there and get some 50-cent leads or whatever. But really, really consult with Chris, because he would know the best route to take on that for you personally.
Okay. I guess that was kind of
But I will
more my question is, what were you specifically aiming for with that? Did you have a specific vision of, I'm going to buy this particular group of bonus leads every week because I tend to have the best outcome by buying these particular ones?
A lead is a lead is a lead. I don't care if it's 50 cents or if it's $40. A lead is a lead. It's a family that needs to be helped, regardless of the price of it or how long it's been in the system. That's still a family that has not been given their options yet and has not been helped. So that's the way that I look at it. When I first started Joey, I didn't have money in my bank account. We had a rental home in Asheville that we were fixing up. And if you know anything about fixing up rental homes, it can get quite costly. And so all of our money was going into that. We were not employed because the resort that we worked at burnt down and everybody was going to different places. So we quit. And so me and my husband neither one of us were working. We were working on this house. So I didn't have a lot to invest in the beginning, but I got as many leads as I could with the money that I had. And I called on those until there was nothing left. And then once I started sitting with folks and getting money into my bank account, instead of eating my seed, paying bills, I would invest that money back into my business and back into my resources, which are the leads. So the first week that I was in the business, I made about $1,500. I didn't get paid for 2 weeks, but I started off with about $60 for lead budget that first week, and I booked 5 appointments. And out of that, I sold 3 policies. And the next week, I still hadn't been paid on it, but I knew that I was getting paid. So that gave me it made me a little less anxious about the situation, about investing more. So the next week, I spent $120. And then the next week, I spent more. And then I spent more and more and more. The more money that I spent in leads, if I was diligent about resolving those leads, I was going to get money back on that return invested into my banking account. And then I was going to be able to invest more money into my leads. So it is a business. So treat it like a business.
Okay, that answered my question. Thank you.
Good, good. Well, I hope I added value to you guys today. If there's no other questions, I wanted to keep it short and sweet. It's almost 12 o'clock. So I'll give you guys one last chance if anybody else has any questions. All right, guys. Well, like I said, I hope I added value to you guys and answered your questions, helped to get you started on the right path. Just remember not to give up on yourself, guys. And your first 90 days is going to be the hardest. So rely on your upline, you know, borrow some of their belief for a little while. If you don't have belief in the system yet until you see some money coming in, then rely on your upline's belief before you can get your own belief. You know, rely on them heavily because they've been there. I guarantee you that your mentor, your upline has been exactly where you are more than once. So whatever you're going through, they've been there and they can help you get through it. You know, the only way for somebody to help you get through something is if they've actually experienced it themselves. And we've all been there. We've been in the trenches. We've dealt with objections, you know. So if you have a question or you're hitting a roadblock or you're frustrated, rely on your upline. Just reach out to them, reach up. All right, guys, so I'm going to head on out, and this is recorded, so I'm going to go ahead and post this just as soon as Zoom lets me. I'll post it up on GroupMe for everybody. So y'all go out there and have a great week. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Laura. Cheers. Bye.
You're welcome.